Now we'd like to get a perspective from the entire House and the entire Senate, to the extent that's possible from any one person, by hearing from a couple of leaders of those two bodies who will each share some thoughts about priorities for the upcoming year. You'll see in your program that Speaker Moore was scheduled to be here. He has had a medical procedure today, and he's not going to be able to be here. He's asked Representative Jason Saine, to substitute for him. So we're honored that Representative Saine would swap in for him, and we wish Representative Moore a recovery. Representing the Senate will be Senate Majority Leader Dan Blue. Between these two, we have a rural Republican representative and an urban Democratic senator. So between the two of them, we hope we'll get some perspective about what the heck's going to happen in the session this year. I'd like to offer each of them a chance to speak in turn. First, I'll call on Representative Jason Saine to speak. He is a representative from Lincoln County in the western part of our state. And then I'll call on Senator Dan Blue, who's a representative of Wake County. Thanks to both of them for joining us.
So good afternoon. How are you? Well, good. So the speaker had a dental emergency, so better him than me. But I'm sure he'll take care of that. He's in Kings Mountain seeing his dentist, which incidentally is where the toothbrush was invented. And if you know the rest of that joke, don't share that with the speaker. But no, just kidding. And particularly don't tell the folks from Cleveland County that might be here. Just picking around. But it's great to be with you. I was just on a panel. If you were in the room for that, thank you for that. Good conversations that are happening. You know, as you look at what's happening in our state, it's exciting. We may not be, hitting a home run every time we go to bat, but we are in the game. And I find that incredibly exciting for each and every one of us that are in this room. I was just in Pembroke last week, I guess last Monday, on my other business, my side hustle, which actually makes money, talking to some companies down there, but seeing how that area is transforming, and other areas across our state where we probably didn't think 20 years ago not much was going to go on there. So we're seeing a lot of that. That's great. As we look at what we've done in the House over the last several years, we have passed tax reform, which you all know about, but we've reconfigured and reinvested in JDIG. Some of the other things, workforce development, our community college system, our university system, paying teachers more. A lot of good things are going on. And we won't get into partisan battles because there's always that. But the reality is North Carolina State is on the map. We are competing. When you look at, Natalie and I were just talking prior about how even when we don't quite land the big fish, the fact that North Carolina is in the news each and every night, and folks are talking about all the good work that we're doing, it's a great place to be. Doesn't mean we can't improve, but it does mean that we are in the game. As we think about that, we want to make sure that we have a global mentality. I work with legislators from across the state, and they have, I pointed out in our last panel, that we've got a lot of different folks that serve in the House, House and Senate, and they come for different reasons, but they all kind of have the same goal in mind. They're serving for the right reasons. But throughout these numbers, it's just kind of a rough estimate, but if you look at the makeup of the current legislature, the current House, we've got 37% rural, 30.5% urban only, 18% suburban, and the rest of that is kind of a mix. You could put them in either category. So when you think about those numbers and you think about as we start to make policy based on that, where people are coming from and their point of views, it means that we really do have diverse sets of opinion. It doesn't mean that anyone's got the one right silver bullet to make it all work together, but we are going to find a way to collaborate and work and take all those opinions and work together. The Speaker's committed to that. I think you've seen that over the last several years, that whether you be an urban legislator or a rural legislator or somewhere in between, you've had a seat at the table. And we encourage that. We encourage that you all in your jobs and your professions reach out to your legislators. Because what's interesting, though, when you look at those numbers, we become very myopic and we start looking at our own little area because we all want to make home runs for our community. And that's the right thing to do. That's what legislators should be doing. But at the same time, making sure that we've educated whatever area of the state you come from, educating those legislators who come from an opposite point of view. We had the sales tax redistribution issue a couple of years ago, and I came to the House Finance Committee, and we spent a long summer, if you'll all remember, in 2015, talking about that. But I think that discussion was incredibly healthy because it brought legislators all in together talking about what is good for my community, how this might hurt my community, what does it all mean? So until you get that kind of global perspective, it really doesn't matter a whole lot. You really have to get our legislators past their own communities and thinking about the state as a whole. And I say that because I think that all of them come to the legislature for the right reasons. They want to do the right thing, but it's just human nature, and it's what we do. I was sitting in Pennsylvania a couple months ago, and it was on a day that we had just attracted a Pennsylvania company to North Carolina. So it was nice to be in front of the House committee there from Harrisburg, their local legislators, having a discussion on economic development and on tax reform. And as I told them, I said, look, North Carolina is going to be competitive, and you all need to know that. They've got high tax rates there. They're not doing a very good job at recruiting. They've missed the boat. So I say that knowing that we're doing a lot better than they are. But I told them, I said, one thing that you can be assured of, my good friends from Pennsylvania, is that we're going to eat your lunch. And I say that with all due respect, but we are going to be competitive, whether it be our rural areas, whether it be our urban areas. We want to be open for business. And knowing that North Carolina can do that, knowing that we, just on that very day, and it was kind of ironic and kind of felt bad after I made my comments to learn that later in that afternoon we had just recruited another company. I didn't feel that bad. Not really, I didn't feel bad at all. They should know exactly what we're going to do. So, but as you work in the House and we try to find out what it is that we're going to do from a policy perspective, know that your legislators are open to ideas. We want to hear from you. Like I say, I've spent a lot of time going across the state. I'm from, I would say, Western North Carolina. I saw Robin that was in here earlier. She'd say, you don't know what Western North Carolina is. There she is. Asheville's Western North Carolina. There's people that would say Asheville's not Western North Carolina. And the same thing with the eastern part of the state. But I spent a lot of time touring the state and getting to know what different areas can be impacted and how the policies that we pass impact areas differently. So we want to be very attuned to that. It is a pleasure to speak to you today. Again, I'm the fill-in. You know, I'm just a designated hitter today. The speaker did want me to say to you, and I garbled as best I could imitate him. Now, he was in a lot of pain, so I kind of making fun of him, but he really did want to be with you today, but knew that I was going to be here, and we want to make sure that he got that taken care of. We've got in the House just getting started, getting geared up for the legislative session, getting to know some of the freshmen that have come in. We've got a new class of folks, different faces that are kind of learning their way around the building, trying to find the cheese in the restroom. We'll get them up to speed very quickly. But as we go to that, as we get into the session, we really do want to hear from you. My door is always open, as many of you know. If there's ever any way that I can help you, please let me know, and please stop by. Again, great to be with you today. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Senator Dan Blue.
Good afternoon to all of you. I told Jason he did pretty good for a stand-in. Thanks for having me here today. I want to thank the Institute for Emerging Issues for hosting this forum. I look forward to it every year because it can't be overstated how important these conversations are. These forums are key to keeping policymakers plugged in on what's happening in our own communities and the issues that really matter. And the concept of bridging the urban-rural divide isn't new. I grew up in Robeson County, so I know both sides of this coin. And it's a challenge that policymakers have tried to wrestle with and tried to address for decades, at least throughout my memory. But one of the strongest tools that we have to building a bridge between urban and rural communities is our state's education system. You hear that a lot. I'm particularly interested in K-12. We have to have a strong K-12 system regardless of where we are located in the state. And we have to take particular efforts to protect the public schools in the rural areas as different populations start moving away from them. But I think that for purposes of this forum, I would say that we have to pay particular attention to higher education and redouble our efforts there. North Carolina State and this event that they're hosting today are a testament to that. North Carolina's public universities are instrumental in moving these conversations in a constructive way and moving them forward. They encourage local leaders and policymakers to think outside the box. That's what they were designed to do. Some of the challenges that our cities and our smaller communities face are not new, again. But it's forums like these that bring the concepts forward to trying to solve these problems. North Carolina has a history of being a center of progress and innovation in the Southeast. No reason we ought to give that up. We're home, contrary to what Georgia might want to think, to the first public university in the country. And we are home in this area that NC State played a big role in, to Red Hat, to Creed, to R.J. Reynolds, Pepsi-Cola, SAS Institute. And, SAS itself was born out of NC State. So innovation can be had at a tremendous level in our public universities. North Carolina is also home to countless biotechnology companies and world financial centers, again, spawned by public universities. And it is here that we hold the secret to the best barbecue in the country, especially if you come from Eastern North Carolina. Now, I would openly challenge Stephen Colbert with his South Carolina hang-ups or anyone else to prove me wrong on that fact. North Carolina is growing also, as you know. We're the 9th largest state in the country and, projected to be the 8th largest state before too long. A state that was built on agriculture and manufacturing has also become a global leader in technology and research. On the whole, our state is doing better than most. Unemployment rate is only 3.6%. Forbes calls us one of the best states in the nation to do business. But if you travel outside the major business centers in Charlotte, Raleigh, and increasingly in the Triad, you don't see the same successes. Some of our suburban and rural areas still have unemployment rates as high as 8% in a time of prosperity. Areas that struggled before the Great Recession have fallen further behind in the years since then. State demographers project that in the next 10 years, 29 counties in North Carolina will shrink in their population. Our smaller communities are losing their tax base, and as a result, we're at risk of losing the quality in our smaller communities. So the question is, how do we turn North Carolina overall economic success that is growing in urban areas so that we can share it across the rest of the state? I suggest several things. For those of us in the General Assembly, we can help to strengthen the infrastructure across these communities to make sure they have the framework to build upon. Just like highways were needed in the past to get products from the farm to the market, we know some of the modern requirements that we have. And one key element that wasn't widely available 10 years ago has the potential to change the concept of job growth in every area of the state. You've talked about it, broadband internet. All of us know that. We take it for granted here in Raleigh, but in other parts of the state, high-speed internet is a rare commodity. Even within urban job centers, one of the job benefits that companies often promote is that of telecommuting. You live 5 miles from the job, but you don't have to get in a car. You really don't need to drive through the rush hour traffic to get to work nowadays, is how they sell it in areas like Raleigh and Charlotte. You only need to be able to log on to your computer. And with the right infrastructure in place, we can connect people to quality jobs anywhere in the state and in this nation. But we're not there yet. I'm not sure we have the total commitment to get there yet, because getting every town and every home connected to broadband needs to be a top priority in our infrastructure investments. Not discussing it, let's make it happen. When we talk about shared success in North Carolina, I think it's important that we frame that in the context of equity and opportunity. That's another way that those of us at the state level can drive home this effort. Last year, there was strong bipartisan support for what was House Bill 998, which provides a path for rural hospitals to become teaching hospitals. Now, there's an ancillary to that I'll hook up for you in a minute, because that was forward-thinking legislation. as economists predict that healthcare and life sciences will be among the largest contributors to job growth in North Carolina over the next 2 years. No reason they can't grow all over the state. Medicaid expansion can help create even more jobs in healthcare. It would be the biggest job addition in most counties in the state were we to adopt it. And if it's going to be healthcare and life sciences, that's needed all over the state. This is an ongoing effort to address community needs as well as economic needs. They shouldn't be left up to your representatives on Jones Street. It's a shared effort. When private and public partnerships are forged, that's when we can build something truly remarkable. The electric car maker Tesla, and many of you know this story, needed skilled mechanics to work on their cars. And what they did with Central Piedmont Community College is a lesson on how we can do it in so many other ways. The need for that skilled workforce, labor force, led Tesla to work with Central Piedmont Community College to train students to get them to do the work. Legislation handed down from Raleigh will only get you so far. Every community has its own unique strengths to build upon. Governor Cooper understood that when he launched the Hometown Strong initiative. We have state leaders and agencies ready to help in every way to make progress in rural North Carolina possible. The first step in building anything great is leveraging on the strengths that you already have and leveraging on the resources. That's what Hometown Strong is all about, and I commend Governor Cooper for his leadership in this endeavor. We can build on the strengths of communities and bring quality jobs to every corner in our state. Whether those jobs are in a nascent film industry that was spreading all over eastern North Carolina, or whether it's manufacturing and agriculture, which will always be major economic drivers and a force within the global economy. We have the opportunity, that is North Carolina, to lead the nation again with a Green New Deal. You see what's happening in the discussions nationally. We can lead North Carolina in that direction. New industries and opportunities available to bring a new wave of manufacturing to our state. Wind and solar farms will continue to be in demand, and we need to be ready to stake our claim to the various renewable energy markets. I believe that it's up to us as policymakers all over the state to find the best ways to connect our state to the innovative commerce of the 21st century. Choosing back office job operations, while it might grab headlines and work half a decade, maybe a decade, given just a little bit of time, artificial intelligence will take over those jobs, and we need to work for more long-term jobs, which are more permanent all over the parts of this state. So whether you live in Raleigh or Rayford, whether you live in Charlotte or Coneto, we're all North Carolinians. The bond is greater than geo-economic definitions. As policymakers, we have a real opportunity in 2019 to bridge this divide and connect North Carolina from the mountains to the coast. I look forward to more opportunities like these to get leaders from every corner of our great state together to find a way to create shared successes for all North Carolinians. Thank you.